I'd always had a desire to run my own company.
Right.
And so after Heaven is for Real came out, this was a faith-based film that I oversaw and shepherded within the studio. We made it for $14 million. Opening weekend, it made about $30 million. And then it went on to make $100 million worldwide. And so I ended up, saying, okay, at the time, the chairman of the studio wanted me to, they wanted to promote me and all that kind of stuff. I said, no, I want my own company. And that was Amy Pascal, who, is like a legendary producer of Spider-Man now, And so she was like, what? You want your own company? He says, yeah, I want my own company. I want to run my own company. I want you to give me a deal. And she said, okay. All right, we'll do it. But you can't negotiate with anyone else. And I said, okay, that's cool. As long as the deal is good.
You asked for what you wanted.
That's right. That's exactly what I wanted. Because I'm at this point in time, I'm making a lot of movies for the studio that's making them a lot of money. Yeah. I'm like, hey, this is cool, but I got to invest in myself. I got to see, over time, if I have the ability to do what I've done for them, for me.
I have DeVon Franklin here with me, and we actually did a podcast. This is now we already did an hour pre-recording, and now we're going to start again. And I basically killed him on the hit axle. So I apologize.
No, it was great. I love it. I mean, I got to get one.
I'm telling you, you look all pumped up.
Because I am.
Well, it worked. And I'm not getting paid by them. I'm just saying hit axle is like a cardio / strength machine that I'm just telling people if they're not, aware of what it is.
It's like nothing anyone's ever tried. I've tried a lot of equipment, a lot of things. This is on another level.
I know. That's why I even showed it to you. So that's why I knew you'd like it.
I cannot wait.
Like it.
I can't wait.
Okay, so I was also saying before we started, I don't even know what to describe you as. You're a New York Times best-selling author. You're a producer. You're a spiritual. What would you call it? Influencer or
I don't know.
Or I don't know what the word is.
I don't either.
You're like a jack of all trades.
Yes.
Do you have any what is the one thing that you're kind of, in your opinion, that you kind of lean really into right now? Is that more of the writing? Is it more the speaking? What's your thing right now?
That's a great question, and I don't have a good answer.
Oh, okay. Well, thank you.
Because, it hasn't been focusing on one. For me, it's really about trying to utilize all the gifts that I have, in a positive way. And so within a day, sometimes I'm wearing the speaker hat, sometimes I'm wearing the producer hat, sometimes I'm wearing the talent hat. It just depends on what's going on. So I try not to choose one as a focus. I try to say, okay, where am I the most useful? Where am I supposed to be? Oh, I need to produce this movie. Oh, I need to produce this show. Oh, I need to go here to speak. I need to do this. So I just try to, stay organic about it and really just allow my feeling of oh, this is what I'm supposed to do right now. Because what I've tried to in the past, pick a lane, so to speak.
Yeah.
For me, it just doesn't work.
You know what's so interesting about that? Well, because most people can't even figure out one thing to do. They don't know what one of their passions are, right? And I feel that you were fortunate enough to have all these things that you're obviously good at and that you like to do. And then also having an opportunity to kind of do them all. Yeah. So I guess the first thing I should ask you is how did it all, what was your evolution, your origin story? Where did you start? And let's go from there and how you kind of evolved into being this jack of all trades and also successful in all of them. Oh, right? Oh, also I should say, he's also known as a dating expert, which is another thing I forgot to put in his bio, which when I Googled you, that was all that came up.
Oh my goodness, Lord have mercy.
Yeah.
Well, going back, I'm from Oakland, California.
Right.
From Northern California. I'm the middle child of 3 boys. And my mother, raised us after my father passed away when I was 9 years old. He died of a heart attack when he was only 36 years old. Yeah, so that's
36.
36, yeah. So that's one of the reasons why I'm very committed to fitness and, trying to eat right so that, whatever is in my genetics, I don't allow a bad diet or not working out to, get the best of me. So
wait a second. So how was he very unhealthy?
He was alcoholic pretty much, most of his adult life, which is not the reason why you have a heart attack at 36. There were some other issues going on. He smoked and all that, but I think there were some hereditary things, going on with his heart that he never really spoke about.
Right. Wow. That's very young.
Yeah. And by the time he was 36, he had, I think the fatal heart attack was his 3rd one. Yeah.
Well, how old was he when he had his first heart attack?
I want to say he was in his early 30s, like I think around 31, 32, around there.
Do you have any idea of the history before, like his father, like the mother, or?
Not about their heart, only about that, his parents were alcoholics as well.
So did you ever, is there a way to check to see if when you see a cardiologist now, what did they say to you? Do you have?
They say everything looks good. I just
scary.
got recently, that we did the whole EKG, we did the scan, I went through the tube, got everything checked out. There was no blockages, nothing, wore a heart monitor for 3 days. Everything looked good. So,
right.
But
you got to be on top of that.
Got to be on top of it.
Wow.
Yes.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but that's cool. Crazy young.
Yes, very, very young.
Yeah.
And so for me, growing up, that was always something that was top of mind. But coming out of that, losing my father at 9 years old, the two things that really made an impact were going to church and watching movies and TV shows. It was like entertainment, and church became my therapy in terms of, how to really navigate what I was dealing with. And so as I got older, I started to have a passion for Hollywood. And at the same time, I was involved heavily in the ministry that I grew up in. And so I was telling everybody, I'm going to go to Hollywood and make movies. And people were like, you can't do that. You're from the church, and Hollywood is, against the church, and you can't be a person of faith and hold on to your faith. And I said, well, I don't believe that. I'm going to go and see what's meant for me. And so I went to USC, majored in business, minored in film, and I got rejected from the USC Film School as a major, an undergrad major.
Oh.
So that's what led me to take on a business major. And as a result, I had a little more time on my hands. So that freshman year, I got an internship working for the company that managed Will Smith and Jada Pinkett Smith and P. Diddy. And
is that the
Jennifer
Overheard?
Lopez.
His
company's called, the company was called Overbrook, but before it was Overbrook, it was a company called Handprint Entertainment. And Benny Medina and James Lasseter and Peter Golden and Jeff Pollack were all the principals of that company. So I started as an intern, when I was 18 years old. And that was basically just learning the business. And then as I got my feet wet, I really started working a lot with Benny Medina. When I was in the office, I was like the third assistant and, just got a chance to learn entertainment like front row and center. And that I was like, this is it. This is what I'm supposed to do. I was so passionate about it. And then Overbrook started my junior and senior year, and I went and became their first intern. And then when I graduated, I became an assistant working for James Lasseter, who at the time was Will Smith's producing partner and manager. And so that was kind of like my start in the business. And then I left there.
That's a good start.
It's a great start.
Yeah.
To have those legends, in my foundation from a professional standpoint is just amazing. And, just the mentorship and the help and guidance that Will has given me over, the 25 years that I've known him it's just unbelievable.
Wow. So wait, so basically, so people don't know, like getting these jobs, by the way, like as an assistant to these talent agencies or management companies, it's like a coveted job.
Yes.
Like they're hard to get.
Yes.
They pay you like terrible money, but like you kind of practice
yes.
and gain your whatever they say, your chops or whatever.
Definitely.
And that's how you get your opportunities. So do you have a business degree from USC then?
I do. I have a business degree with an emphasis in entrepreneurship and a minor in film.
That's amazing.
And so, but for me, it wasn't just about getting the intellectual. It was about getting the practical.
Of course.
So that's why my whole 4 years, I, combined the internship, the practical with the educational experience. So I had the intellectual, my goal was to have both, because a lot of people may get the intellectual, but if you don't have the practical, you're not going, it's not going to work.
It means
right.
Nothing.
So
exactly.
for me, learning the business and starting to, meet the right people and understand how it all works. I was incredibly fortunate to be able to do that starting at 18. And so the foundation, of my career has always rested on that internship and then being the assistant for 2 years. And that a lot of people look at Hollywood and think, oh, it's glamorous. It wasn't glamorous at all.
I know. Talk about what you did. I want people to understand what you did as an assistant, because I think these are fascinating. I was that also for like 5 minutes. I didn't last very long, but I was at 3 Arts and it was
3 Arts. Yes.
For like literally 2 minutes. Oh my
goodness.
Yes. Yeah. Like the rolling of the calls and all that kind of nonsense.
So that's right. The assistant is, rolling the calls, doing the schedule. filing, running errands when need be.
Yeah.
Facilitating travel arrangements for my boss. Anything that my boss needed. If there was something going on at the house, have to make sure that was being taken care of. If there was family coming in and they needed help, that was, my job. Reading scripts, making sure that he had what he needed. On a day-to-day basis, here's your to-do list.
Did you have Jennifer Lopez at that point?
So when I started interning for Benny, my freshman and sophomore year, right when I was leaving to go to Overbrook, he took on Jennifer.
Oh,
because at that time, Puffy and Jennifer were dating.
Right.
And so that's how, from my recollection, that's how Jennifer got into Benny's life and Benny got into Jennifer's life. And then they've been together, pretty much ever since.
Right.
And so,
they broke up, I think, for like a little
bit. For a minute,
bit,
but you know how that goes.
Of course. And then they're back together.
They're incredible.
Who was his big one? Was it Mariah? No, he didn't have Mariah Carey.
No, his big one was Babyface.
Babyface was his big one?
Benny Medina.
No way.
Yes. Before Puffy and before J-Lo, he had Babyface when Babyface did the Day album. And that album got like 13 Grammy nominations. Yeah,
I remember.
Had the song Every Time I Close My Eyes. And it was just huge. It was massive. And that was that was Benny Medina.
Okay, I thought there was a girl that he had also.
He had Michelle and Cello before he had Babyface. But Babyface was really, and there was a season like, around, what's the Mariah song? Oh man. If you think you're lonely now, it'll come back to me. But anyway,
are you a singer also? You
can I can't sing. I can't sing. I can't sing.
I feel you can do everything.
We belong together.
Oh,
That's
we belong together.
So around that album, Benny managed her, but that was just for a season,
for a small period.
Just for a small period. So when I was there, it was Michelle and Cello, Babyface. Will, on some level, he helped out with Will. He did P. Diddy and then Jennifer Lopez. And then there were a bunch of other talent at the time.
Just, okay, so does he still have, is it just J-Lo now? You can't have time for anybody else.
I think it's only,
right? Because how are you going to be able to split your time between J-Lo and, whoever? So then what happened to Babyface? Did he just leave or what happened to him?
You know what? At the time, I can't remember.
I'm just curious.
I can't remember exactly what happened.
Okay,
it's like, Babyface is still around and he and LMA just did a new song. That's the #1 added song on R&B radio.
It is?
Oh yeah. So Babyface is still alive and doing his thing.
Alive and
huge.
Kicking.
Yeah. I mean, Babyface is one of the biggest songwriters in the world.
I know. I mean, I was just curious what happened to that relationship between Babyface and I want the what do you call it, the T or the
that I don't know. I don't know.
Okay, fine. So you don't know that.
We'll have to get Benny on the
I was going to say
habits and hustle.
Exactly. I have to I got to make a note of that. Thank you.
Yeah, he would be a great interview, by the way.
I would love
if he would do it. He would be incredible.
I think he would be amazing. So if anyone, maybe you can hook me up to him.
I'm like, Benny.
Yeah. If you still talk to him?
We text occasionally, and I saw him a couple times last year. And then I saw him briefly earlier this year.
Okay.
And he is just, to be able to learn from a legend like that who knows this business inside and out, I can't tell you, how great it was. Because when I was an assistant, I was driving him around.
Yeah.
I would drive him to meetings, drive him to the studio, drive him to award shows.
Were you able to listen? Were you able to go into the meeting and listen in on all the?
Oh my goodness.
That's good.
Without a doubt. While he was on the phone, I was listening.
Of course.
Driving and listening, picking up, understanding how it works, understanding what went into this business, how to be successful, how to navigate talent, how to deal with deals. All of that I learned while driving him around.
And so when did you get to, when you went to Overbrook, why did you move? Is it just because opportunity came up?
Yes, because primarily when I first started interning, it was focused mostly on music because the music business portion of that company was so big and vibrant. What I was really passionate about was music was great, but I really wanted to learn film.
Right.
So at the time when Overbrook started, they got a film deal with Universal Pictures. And so James Lasseter and Will Smith broke off and started Overbrook Entertainment with that deal with Universal. And then I went over there as their first intern because I really wanted to understand more about the film side of the business, the film development side of the business.
So how did you get your first movie deal? That, again, it's not, there are people who move here all day, all night from everywhere in the world to have an opportunity. So how did you even get that?
Because after I was an assistant for 2 years, I actually went to go work for Babyface and Tracy Edmonds in their film department as a development executive. I did that for 2 years. And then I went to MGM as a studio executive. I worked on Be Cool and Beauty Shop. And then I left there because MGM got sold to Sony along with a couple other equity investors back in 2005.
Right.
And so I was able to transition to Sony/Columbia Pictures and became an executive there. And so I worked on everything from The Pursuit of Happiness, 7 Pounds, Pink Panther 2, 21, Jumping the Broom, Karate Kid remake, Heaven is for Real. I worked on a lot of films. And so
as an executive at the studio.
At the studio, right.
Very different.
Very different.
Yeah.
So I'd always had a desire to run my own company.
Right.
And so after Heaven is for Real came out, this was a faith-based film that I oversaw and shepherded within the studio. We made it for $14 million. Opening weekend, it made about $30 million. And then it went on to make $100 million worldwide.
What was it called?
Heaven is for Real.
Oh, Heaven's for Real. Yeah. That was a big one.
Yeah, it was huge.
Yeah.
It was massive. And so I ended up, saying, okay, at the time, the chairman of the studio wanted me to, they wanted to promote me and all that kind of stuff. I said, no, I want my own company. And that was Amy Pascal, who, is like a legendary producer of Spider-Man now, And so she was like, what? You want your own company? He says, yeah, I want my own company. I want to run my own company. I want you to give me a deal. And she said, okay. All right, we'll do it. But you can't negotiate with anyone else. And I said, okay, that's cool. As long as the deal is good.
You asked for what you wanted.
That's right. That's exactly what I wanted. Because I'm at this point in time, I'm making a lot of movies for the studio that's making them a lot of money.
Yeah.
I'm like, hey, this is cool, but I got to invest in myself. I got to see, over time, if I have the ability to do what I've done for them, for me.
Right.
And so she was, in her, I guess, savviness and understanding and catching my vision. She said, yeah, no problem. So that's how I got my deal. They gave me a deal. And the first movie that I did for Sony was Miracles from Heaven, starring Jennifer Garner and Queen Latifah. And Eugenio Derbez, who's, they're all amazing. And then I did a movie called The Star, which was an animated film that had Steven Yeun and Oprah Winfrey and Tyler Perry as voices, among so many other great talent. And then I moved my deal from Sony to Fox.
Why?
And because it was
more
just
money?
A better opportunity, at the time.
What was the opportunity? I want to know what the difference
for
was.
me in running this business, I'm obsessive, okay?
Yeah.
Right? I'm like, I want to make, let's make 2 a year.
Good for you.
Let's
I
go.
love it.
Yes. People need hope, people need inspiration, and they look to entertainment. People look to entertainment, whether we like it or not. Entertainment plays a very valuable cultural force. Cultural impact by people looking to entertainment for help, for guidance, to know what to wear, to know what to be, to know what to say. All of these things, again, whether it's good or bad, right?
Yeah, I agree.
It still is influential.
Yeah.
Entertainment is one of those powerful mediums in the world. And so for me, I'm like, look, I want to go. I want to make more. And so the opportunity to go to Fox was the promise of being able to do more. And that is what was happening. I was able to get a film made there with Chrissy Metz called Breakthrough. There was a song that Diane Warren wrote for the movie. It ended up getting an Oscar nomination. And then right when all that was happening, Fox got sold to Disney. And so so Disney, basically took over Fox. And so I had to go find a new deal.
So
and
you lost your deal.
I did. And so I ended up at Paramount, which is where I've been for the past couple of years.
And how's that going?
It's going good. I got a lot of friends at Paramount, and they're having a great moment with the success of Top Gun and getting ready to sit down with them.
That movie is it's like every week. It's like unbelievable.
I know. It just the timing of it.
The timing was, unbelievable.
Yeah.
That movie's crushing like I've never seen. It's like
I know, and it's a great film, and
it is
kudos
good. I like
to
it.
everyone involved, including Tom. Just was amazing.
So you still have your deal. So what kind of deal is it? Do you have like a minimum? How does it work when you have like a development deal? Like I kind of understand, but most people won't.
Sure.
So how does it?
Yeah. So so I have a film deal with Paramount Pictures, and I have a television deal with CBS Studios. And so the way that works is that Paramount Pictures basically funds the overhead of my company on the film side. In exchange, I give them a first look at any material that I want to develop.
And do you have did you have a certain budget you have to kind of
No,
stay with, or
no,
is it whatever you
no.
kind of have
you
to
mean
get
in terms of budget for them films or budget in terms of overhead?
everything? Do they say you have X amount of dollars?
Yes, they give you a finite amount of money for your overhead, and you can kind of, divvy it up how you see fit for the most part.
Right.
And then on the budgets for your films, it just depends on what that particular film is and what level of appetite they have to make it.
So with the first look, if they say, no, I don't want to do it.
I can take it everywhere else.
You could take it everywhere else.
Yes.
And so so your TV deal is, so what, do you have any TV things happening? Like,
yeah, I just did I have a series on the air with BET and BET Plus called Kingdom Business, which is very much like Empire, the series that was on Fox.
I love that show.
Yeah, but this show, my show, is set in the world of the gospel music industry. Oh. So it's really great, and Kirk Franklin and Dr. Holly Carter are involved.
Is it doing well?
It's doing great. We literally just opened up the writer's room for season 2, and now that is moving forward. BET loves the show. BET Plus loves the show. It's been a big hit for them.
That's amazing.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. And then I produced a pilot for CBS this past season, which was a reboot of Early Edition, which was a show that was on, about 20 years ago.
Oh my God, you're doing so much stuff just on that stuff alone.
Yeah.
So you're busy.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you're like, you're just like, I thought you were just doing the hit axle with me and doing some podcast, shooting this shit about NAD. I didn't know what you're doing. Okay, I get it. Okay, yes. So you're still working actively in that world of Hollywood and producing.
Oh,
and
yeah, I just did a film. I just produced a movie called Flamin' Hot, which is about Richard Montanez, who was the driving force behind Flamin' Hot Cheetos. He was a Mexican janitor who worked for Frito-Lay.
Oh, wow.
Came up with the idea to put chili powder on a Cheeto and market it to his community in Southern California. And next thing you know, it takes off and becomes what we know now is Flamin' Hot Cheetos, a $1 billion brand.
Yeah.
And so Eva Longoria just directed the film. We're doing it with Searchlight, Disney, and Hulu. And that'll be out sometime next year. So then
how much time do you have to allot to that and then also do these other things? Like, what is...
It's a blender. It's a smoothie. It's a professional smoothie.
Yeah.
You just put it all in, you mix it up, and you do it.
And just, exactly. That's all you can do, right?
That's it. That's all you can do.
So, do you have a staff of people? Like, how many producers, how many creatives? Like, how big is the, your
about
office
6 people.
there?
I have a couple folks in the film division, a couple folks in TV, a couple folks in digital, and then, my own assistant. So, I have about 6. And then I have a manager who really helps, navigate all the talent side of my life. And
so you do acting too?
I do. Sorry, Jen.
God.
You asked me the question. I'm just answering.
I mean, okay, this is just do model too. Like, I feel like
I haven't modeled yet.
You haven't modeled yet.
You got
a good smile. Well, you should get a Crest or a Colgate deal.
Listen, you're the queen of branding, so you might be able to hook it up.
Listen, I think I might be able to actually with that smile. I'm surprised no one's approached you yet. Really?
Not yet.
With that smile, you've never been approached by all these toothpaste companies or
No. Maybe after this, it'll change all of that.
I think so. I think we have to talk about that because that's a whole other revenue stream that you haven't tapped into yet.
Yes, I have not at all. So I'm very open.
We got to talk about that.
Okay.
So, you got TV, you got the Hollywood producing stuff. Wow, that's crazy. So what else? So you're doing these then you start doing these movies and you got this deal with at the time it was Sony and then the other Fox.
Yes.
So then how did you kind of morph into all these other things? Like, how did you become a dating expert from being a Hollywood guy?
Right.
Or how did you become a spiritual guy or a speaker?
Right. Okay.
You're still only in that one area, right?
Right. So we'll go back in the story and then kind of articulate some parallel paths that were happening.
Yes, because there's so much with you. Who knew?
Who knew? Right. That's why we're here.
Torre, you should have told me this. God. Okay.
So when I was 15.
Okay.
The church I grew up in Oakland,
right,
was run by my uncle, who was my pastor, Dr. DJ Williams. Mm-hmm. And so he started a church in East Oakland called Wings of Love Maranatha Ministries, and that was our family church. And so at 15, they had me give my first sermon for this youth day. And so
at 15?
15, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yep. And so I was a huge follower of Les Brown.
Yeah.
And
I love Les Brown.
He's amazing.
Yeah,
he's just a legend and a guru and unbelievable. And his book, I think it was called Live Your Dreams, was out around that time. And so for the first sermon, I really probably relied more on that book than I did on the Bible to create my sermon.
How old are you, by the way?
I'm 44.
Okay, because you've lived a life with lots of stuff. So
no, a lot going on. A lot have going on. Right. No.
So much, okay.
So I started preaching at 15.
Okay.
And then people were like, oh my goodness, you need to go into ministry. You have the gift. I said, no, I'm being called to Hollywood. But even though I didn't think I was supposed to preach as my profession, I still started doing it. So fast forward to when I took the assistant job working for James Lasseter, Will Smith's former producing partner and manager. That same year, my uncle said, hey, DeVon, I'm getting older. Can you come up to Oakland once a month to preach for me at Wings of Love? And so at first I didn't want to do it, but I was like, okay, because my uncle had been has been and still a very influential force in my life.
Right.
And so I started going up to Oakland once a month to preach. So lo and behold, I don't remember how it happened, but the folks at Overbrook started to find out, like, oh, wait a minute, so you preach? And I'm like, yeah. And they were like, what? So we started like doing at that time, we would do Bible studies during lunch, and people would come to me for advice. They would come to me for spiritual counsel. They would come to me for prayer.
Okay.
So that was just all organic. And then when I got to MGM, the Hollywood Reporter did an article on Black Hollywood. And they featured me in the article talking about I was a young Black executive. But what made me unique is not only was I an executive, but I also preached. And they talked about me going up to Oakland once a month. And they also talked about me observing the Sabbath. Because even as a Christian, I was raised observing Sabbath. So
Why?
Friday night sundown to Saturday night sundown, I don't work. Because it's Sabbath. It's a day of rest. That's what the word says.
Like you're like Jewish like me. Who knew?
It's Shabbat. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom. Do you get a challah? Do you do the whole thing? I don't understand.
Yeah. I mean, on Friday night growing up, we would bring in the Sabbath together as a family and then go to church Sabbath morning. And then after church, we would have our our
Do you drive?
Yeah, we would drive. We didn't practice like Orthodox.
You weren't Orthodox.
In any way. No.
Okay.
It was just, taking the principle of rest. And, not going to school dances and not watching movies and not watching regular TV, there was a lot of restrictions growing up. And so even now I've still observed the Sabbath. Throughout my whole Hollywood career, I've observed the Sabbath. And so that was also something that people were like, what? Like, because I told them when I took the internship, if it requires me to work on the Sabbath, I'm not going to take it. And they were like, okay, wow. Okay.
Were they confused?
They were, but they just said, all right, we're going to leave them alone.
Right, what are they going to say, right?
Right. So, and then when I got the job at Sony and did all that, worked at MGM, I was always observing the Sabbath. And so what I didn't know is I was communicating that my spirituality was important to me. Inadvertently, I was just saying, hey, this is my boundary. And if the job doesn't work for the boundary, cool, I'm not going to compromise the boundary for the job. And so going back to me preaching at Oakland, as that started to get out there and as, the information about Sabbath, all of that was put into the MGM article. And so then people started calling me and saying, oh, wow, you're doing this. That's unique. How are you in Hollywood and still holding on to your faith and all this kind of stuff? So it just started a lot of conversation.
Did they think you were Jewish or like half
No,
Jewish?
They knew I was Christian, but they just didn't know. It's like, wait, you're Black, you're Christian, you observe Sabbath.
You're Jewish.
How does all this work?
That's how I feel right now with you. You're a dating expert. You're a Hollywood producer. You're also a writer. What are you?
No, I know. I'm just me. I'm just me,
You're
Jen.
literally like a smoothie of everything.
A smoothie, right? You know what I mean?
So many ingredients.
Inspirational smoothie. There it is.
So true. Even back then. So I'm not the only one who said this to you.
No, you're not. You're not. I get it every day of my life.
Holy moly.
So long story short, talking about that parallel path.
Yeah.
So when I got to Sony, and I was there, I got there in 2005. So it would have been, I think, around 2008, 2000. It would have been 2008, I believe.
Okay.
I got approached by a book agent, and they said, "Hey, your faith and your role in Hollywood, you might want to consider writing a book. And if you ever did, I could help you out." So about a year later, I was in Beijing working on the Karate Kid remake, and I just had this idea. Oh, wow, this is how my first book is going to be about. You have to compromise your faith to be successful. Because I haven't compromised my faith, and I'm here working at this studio, and I'm in Beijing, China.
Yeah, how were you doing that? Because weren't you like working on the weekends on Saturday and Friday in Beijing? Like
no,
you were just like, sorry, I'm out.
Yeah. Literally, we were in my book, Produced by Faith, which is the first book.
Yeah.
The opening scene is me being in this hutong, which was an old Chinese neighborhood. And
Can you say that on the camera?
It's that's what it's called. It's called a hutong. And so we were there, and Jackie Chan and Jaden and Will and Jada. And, there were thousands of people in that particular village that came out for the shoot. And, I'm there as a studio executive, working on the movie. And sun started to go down, and I said, I'll see y'all tomorrow when sun comes up. When sun goes down on Saturday night,
Wow.
And so I left. And so I write about it in Produced by Faith. And then what was so funny is the next day I went out to go spend some time in the Olympic Village. And one of the producers saw me, and they were like, wait, can you be out? I'm like, yes, I can be out. They're like, okay, because if you lose faith, there's no hope for any of us.
That's exactly right. Oh my God.
I was like, no, I'm not losing faith. Just getting some fresh air.
That's amazing. You really are that like restrictive about it then too. It's not just like when it's convenient, basically.
No. Yeah. I really try to even now, get to the essence of rest. And even now, I'll turn off my social media. I'll turn off my email for that Sabbath day. So Friday night sundown to Saturday night sundown. I just really try to refresh, renew, just plug back into. So what are you
doing? And what do you do?
Reading, spending time with the family, sometimes going to church, watching videos on YouTube.
Do you have kids?
Right? Not yet.
Okay.
I'll write, so I do all those things. But the point I'm getting at is all of that was what led me to write the first book. So when I got the idea, I called the book agent, and my book agent at the time, and said, hey, I have this idea. She was like, great, let's go sell it. We went and sold it to Simon & Schuster. But then I had to go to my bosses because I was an executive. I was a vice president of production for Columbia Pictures at the time. And I said to them, hey, is it okay if I write this book? And they were like, you want to do what? I said, well, I want to write a book about my faith. And they were like, man, well, usually people write books when they retire or get fired.
Right, like an autobiography.
Right, and it's like, but I'm like, it's not
like Bob Iger now,
Right, there you go.
Yeah.
And so, but they were like, you know what? Because this is who you've been since you got here, we're going to give you the okay to do it. So they gave me the okay to write my first book, and the book, did very well. And then that led to the second book, and that led to the third book. So while I was being an executive and then transitioning into producing, the writing and becoming an author was just a part of it. So once you're an author, as you are an expert in whatever you just wrote about.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
And then so that's when television started calling. So like the parallel path of like being the executive, writing the book, you asked me how did I become a dating, advisor or relationship advisor? Then TV started calling. So I did Oprah Winfrey's Super Soul Sunday, and I did Dr. Phil, and I did Meredith Vieira, and did Entertainment Tonight, and co-hosted that, and was on Dr. Oz for years. And
as what kind of were you?
I went on there as basically with Dr. Oz, we did a lot of different segments. So some segments I was a spiritual advisor, other segments I was a relationship advisor, other segments I was just a life advisor. Just depending on what the segment was. I mean, we did all those different type of segments over the course of a couple of years.
Really?
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Yes.
Because normally they have a lane for you. Like when I also did his show a bunch, but it was always in the fitness area.
Right.
Or like they didn't call me to do like, religious, hour. I did my lane,
Yeah.
But with you, they did all these other.
Absolutely. We had all these different touch points that were authentic to me that
great.
Worked for them for segments and stuff. And so that's how I got into TV.
Yes.
And then that got me into, doing more, dating shows and going on and doing advice, everything from the Steve Harvey show that I've done advice on.
Yeah.
The dating advice on The Real. Just did, a season of Married at First, not a season, but an episode of Married at First Sight this season and the next season. So it was organic is my point.
Wow. So are you going to get your own talk show?
You know what? Listen, I would love that. And we're going to see what God has in plan. But yeah, I would love to. The talk space is so different than it has been. But, I just know that given my experience in this business, given the things that I've written, given the access that I have and my point of view, it's something that I'm really excited about. And me and my team have talked about. We're just, trying to get the right time in the right format.
So have you explored it at all? Like, have you pitched yourself to them?
We have not gone out with the DeVon Franklin show.
Okay.
We have been really strategic about, setting in place the right foundation and the right foundation. Because once you launch with the DeVon Franklin show, you can't relaunch it.
Yep.
Right. And if you launch and it doesn't sell, then the market's like,
you're done.
We're done. So we have been very, very, strategic and thoughtful and, done a lot of meetings with different people around town and, really just trying to figure out like what's the best way to ultimately get there.
Right.
But it's something that's close to my heart. It's something I'm very passionate about because it really would allow me to bring together all of these different things that I'm able to do. Not that long ago, for King Richard, I sat down with Will Smith and interviewed him. We pushed out to the faith community. So
really?
we did.
So where'd you do the interview? Like, what would you do?
We did it at the press junket. So right there on the tennis court. So I went there, and got about, 10, 15 minutes with him. And that was great. And then for my film Breakthrough, I brought Steph Curry on board as an executive producer. And he and I did a sit down that we did for Fox Sports. And then I did a sit down with Chrissy Metz. And so my point is like, I have all of these, great relationships of people that are, really like-minded that if I was doing my talk show, I'd be able to bring, that knowledge and that information, to everyone. Because there's so much that people don't realize that goes into the people that they love.
Absolutely.
And so, me being able to connect in that way, I think could be great.
Have you ever explored doing like a podcast, just starting as a podcast?
Yes, I've thought about it. We've talked about it. We have a couple meetings I have a couple meetings coming up to discuss it. Right? The podcast is a hustle.
It's a hustle.
It's a hustle. Yeah, and 100%.
So but you have the relationship. So
I do. But the only thing that I wonder about with a podcast is, with all the things that I'm doing, like, okay, is that just another thing to do?
It's another thing to do.
Or is it the thing that's going to help me bring all of these things together? And that's where I go back and forth. We are in conversations, about one, and I'm taking some meetings, but I haven't launched full steam ahead because I've really been trying to be thoughtful about the right talent opportunity for what I have to offer. Yeah,
but like someone like you, not to give you business advice, but
I'm going
to give it to you anyway. Yes. Like, it's like such an easy, so I'm going to tell you, this is just like a side thing. Funnily enough, this was not called Habits and Hustles. It was called Game Changers. And I sold a TV show to a major network, and they were going to do a similar thing called Game Changers. And I sold it to the network, and we're like, we're trying to make a pilot, and it was like, and this, it goes on forever and ever and ever, and nothing ever happens, and I'm waiting, and like we couldn't even agree on who to be the pilot. Like I wanted this thing, they wanted something else. It was like a nightmare.
Right.
While this was happening, I'm like, fuck that. I'm not doing that. I'm just going to start it as a podcast and see kind of like, I'm not going to put my destiny in someone else's hands. And I'm just going to like move, I'm going to like I'm going to have action and see what happens. Anyway, long story short, now I have this podcast, but like not to your level. I'm not comparing it, but what I'm saying is that the amount of opportunities and leverage that I got from doing what I'm doing has just given me so much more ability to kind of create with more opportunities. So like say now, like people now, some of these networks are now coming back at a whole different level, right? Because you did it on your own and you have something that's like worth something.
That's right.
Do you know what I mean?
I do.
So for you, I think it would be like such a simple thing to do to just start doing it on your own terms. Yeah. And then you can like reverse engineer.
That's a good idea.
Like that's what I would do. And a couple of my friends have done that, and now they're like they have like huge Spotify deals. Making more money doing that than they were doing something else, like doing the other entertainment stuff that they were doing, right? Because this medium of podcasting, it's super saturated, yes. But if you're talent already, and you have a following, and you have all these relationships, it's like a no-brainer. Why would you not do that? And like, you can catapult your all that into a whole different opportunity for yourself.
Okay. No, this is good. This is good counsel.
That's what I mean. I don't think you came here for my business advice.
No, I know. I came here for everything God has. So thank you. I'll take it.
No, I just think it's like a no-brainer for you. Yeah. And you're so well spoken. Like what I noticed, like I was saying to you before, when I met at Tori's birthday or whatever, like your voice was made for this type of thing.
Wow,
like you have a beautiful voice. You're very eloquent. You're articulate. And you have all the relationships. Like, I'm like, where is he? Why do you not have a big deal? You know what I mean? I don't get it.
Right. You know what? Listen, it's one of those things that, here's what I'll say. Everything happens at the right time.
Yeah.
And for me, as I've gone on just my own journey and personal development and really getting clearer on the core essence of who I am and really living in that truth, I think that, if I had this show a few years ago, it wouldn't have been as impactful as now. Like me doing it now, like who I am now and what I know now, forget about it.
Well, 100%, but you can also figure that out while you're doing something.
This is true.
Not like you have so much time on your hands. I know you have like 97 projects that you're
and
working.
You're adding another one. I love it.
I know, why not?
I love it. Let's go.
Just keep on like adding to that pile.
Yes.
But I just think you'd be so good with it,
Thank you.
You're welcome. And then do you also do motivational speaking?
I do here and there.
Oh, okay.
You know what I mean? But it's not like a huge,
It's not like what you don't like travel the country doing this stuff.
No, not at all.
It's more this like, one-offs or
yes,
whatever.
There you go.
So then how did this whole Audible book come to be? Like why and what and how and all the others?
So Audible had approached me a couple years ago.
Okay.
I had done an article for Maria Shriver. She has a Sunday paper. And the article was at the time called The Coalition of Black Women.
Okay.
And it was about...
By Maria Shriver?
No. I wrote the article for Maria Shriver.
Okay. I thought got it. Okay.
Yeah. So when my father died, my mother brought in the help of my grandmother and my grandmother's 7 sisters. And so I wrote an article about how they surrounded me and my brothers and helped to really bridge the gap of losing our father. And so they gave us wisdom and knowledge and about everything from religion to sex to money and all this. So Audible said, this article is really good. Would you ever be interested in writing a book about it? And I said, oh, well, I hadn't thought about it, but I'd be open to it. And so we did a deal to do an audio only book. Mm-hmm. And so the part of the process was me getting a chance to sit down with my mom and 5 of my living great aunts. So my Aunt Donna, my Aunt Nuna, my Aunt Sandra, my Aunt Ida, and my Aunt Enos. Aunt Nuna is 95, Aunt Sandra 75. So it was a blessing to be able to sit down with them individually and then ask them questions about our history and our story and about the death of my father and their point of view on it. And then when I put the book together, when the listeners hear it, it almost listens like a movie, because I really brought a storytelling aspect to it. So like my voice will come in, and then one of my aunts will come in, then my mother will come in. And we really just start to talk about how this tragedy of losing my father impacted everyone, and then how that led us to be the family that we are today.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah. So when did you release this?
Released it earlier this year. It was April of 22?
Oh, okay. So it's very new.
Relatively new.
Right,
past 6 months. Yep.
And so I want to ask you though about, because when like I said, I did all this research and it's all the dating stuff. I have to ask, I did the research on this whole tell me the truth about men.
Oh yeah.
So can you tell me the truth about men? Can you please tell me the truth?
How much time do we have? No,
as much as you want to give me. I mean, I've taken up God knows how much already, but I want you to give me the goods.
Yes. The truth about men. I'm actually in the process of developing that as a scripted show.
Why didn't you? That was my next thing, or a movie. I feel like that would be a great movie though.
Yeah. Well, we're going to do the scripted show first.
Yeah.
And then we'll see.
Why'd you choose that?
Because that's just what kind of came together, with the right writer and the right partners. And I can't speak about it yet because our deals aren't closed. Hopefully they'll close in the next few days.
You'll come back and tell me.
But I'll come back to
it.
Yes. But the truth about men, this idea was birthed out of, all of what was going on with Me Too.
Okay.
And, for me as a young man, I have always been fascinated with this idea of why do men cheat? And I'll never forget, I talk about this in the book, that growing up, I found this picture of my father and my mother and another family member sitting on a bed. And my mother looked really unhappy, and that family member looked really happy. And so I remember looking at it saying, what is this? What's going on? And so years later, I asked another family member, I said, hey, what happened here? And they told me the truth. That my father had an affair with that family member, and that my mother found out about it. And that picture basically captured that. And so I said, wow, so if my dad couldn't be faithful to my mother, why? And so that question always kind of haunted me. Like, what is going on in us as men that keeps us from being able to keep our commitments and do what we say we're going to do and be who we say we're going to be? And so all of that, and then the Me Too movement really was the catalyst for me to say, okay, as a man, I need to do something. And so that's what was the seed of the truth about men. And the truth about men, what men and women need to know, what that is that every man struggles between 2 things, love and lust. And I call love the master. I call lust the dog. So for us as men to be the men we were called to be, we have to put love in control of lust. We have to master the dog within. And that lust can be a lust for money, sex, power, fame, women. There's a lot of things that we can lust over. And so for men, if we become what our lust makes us, if we become what that dog within makes us, we become irresponsible. We become unaccountable. We inflict countless damage, not only to people that we say we care about, but for generations to come. We become callous. We become selfish, right? So that lust is selfishness. That love is selflessness. And when we as men say, I'm going to put selflessness over selfishness, that's when we can become the men we were called to be. But the truth is, that's the struggle going on within every man. I don't care who they are. I don't care where they are. It's the struggle. But nobody wants to talk about it.
I mean, also, why only men? Don't you think women have that?
I do
Not as
for sure,
severe,
right?
maybe?
And if I were to do the book, if I were to do another edition, I probably would say the truth about men and women. But
or one of the women.
But here's the thing: as a man, even in the dating space, I cannot be a man that writes a book about what women need to do.
No,
better.
100%.
I'm sorry.
It's ridiculous. Yes.
So yes, you're right that women.
But it's not your job to do that.
But not even not my job. I think that's been done already. And I think that's the problem. A lot of times in the dating space, it's so focused towards what women need to do. We as men get off with the free pass. And I'm saying, no, as men, let's do our work. And this is our work. If we as men started to do our work, things would change like that. But we don't sometimes.
Okay.
So that's why I wanted to write it from the male point of view. But you're right. Women struggle between love and lust as well.
Okay, how about this? Okay, so give me some practical things, right? So that makes, I like the way you describe that. I wholeheartly agree with you, right? Mm-hmm. I also think it's a personality thing, right? But I do think there is that conflict. What's the first step though? Like wanting to do something like that, wanting to do right doesn't mean that you do right? Like no. Someone's, the best intentions were, what's that
the road to hell is paved with good intentions.
With good intentions, right? So, okay, so I want to do well and I'm a good person, but like sometimes I just I mess up or I'm not, I veer this way. I can course correct, but doesn't mean that I'm not doing the mistake in the first place. What's your advice, or would you tell people step one would be?
Acknowledgement.
Okay, acknowledgement.
Anything we suppress, we empower. So to your point, like if I want to change, not even change, if I want to be the best man I can be, I got to acknowledge that the worst man is in me. That's because if I just say, oh, I want to be a good guy, I want to be a good man, but I don't acknowledge that darkness in me and say, hey, yeah, I want to be a good man, but I got that dog in me. I got that lust in me too.
Yeah.
So it starts with acknowledging, right? Okay, it's here. I'm not going to sit up here and act like it doesn't exist, because if I do that, I'm going to do something that works against who I say I want to be. So the acknowledgement comes the first. The second part is to say, okay, what are my triggers? What have I done in the past where it has triggered me to feed the dog instead of feeding the master within? Oh, got it, right? What triggered me was, okay, you know what? I got lonely. So I called up this girl. I had no intention for her. And then after that, I ghosted her. Okay. All right. Let's pause there. Does the ghosting align with what you say you're about? No. Oh, okay. Got it. But the key is you got lonely. Okay. Let's talk about a better way to handle your loneliness instead of using women as an object of fulfillment in a moment and then discarding them. This is how we as men start to level up, by addressing what's going on and taking a moment to identify like, oh, I can do better and I want to do better. And here's how I do better, by going back and saying, oh, here's where I missed it. Yeah, I was wrong to do that. That wasn't cool. Yeah. Okay. That's how we do it. You acknowledge, you start to look for your triggers, and then you just have to really we as men, we need discipline. So we have to use discipline, right? So it's like, all right, just because you can doesn't mean that you always should. As a man, just because, I can be in a situation where maybe a woman is, saying, hey, let's go do this or do that. If I don't have an intent for her, why would I do that? I'm not just going to do that for sport, because for her, it's something serious. For me, it's just, I'm like, no, I'm going to use discipline because I want that master, that love in me, even if it's a situation that people say, oh, well, it's fine. No, if my heart is not there, if I have no intent, I'm not going to do it, because it's the man I want to be, right? I want to master this dog within. I want this dog to not run, ruin, and wreck my life, which it will do if I just recklessly feed it. If I'm constantly giving in to my flesh, constantly giving in to the lust, constantly giving in to the excess, I'm going to become what it makes me. And that's less than a man to me.
That's so beautiful. See, you're such a well-spoken person. First of all, have you ever heard the Chris Rock thing? You're only as faithful as your options.
Yes, I've heard
so
that.
I was thinking about that when you were saying this, number one. Number two, here you are. You're a guy in Hollywood, right? Good-looking guy, young guy. Are you single, married? What's your deal? You're single. Yeah. Okay. How are you taking, are you able to like do that? Like, how are you able to harness the lust? And
yes.
How? What are you doing for, are you just so again, acknowledgement triggers.
Intention.
And intention. So you're not, you don't have to be, well, actually, I want you to tell me the truth. Like, what are you, to be honest, I want to know.
I need the truth, DeVon. Tell me the truth. So
does that mean when you meet a girl and you don't have any intent, if your intention is maybe a little bit darker or a little bit not a little suspect to what her intention is, you will just.
If we don't have the same intention, if it's not good for me, if it's not good for her, it's not good for me.
You never slip up?
No. because it's about intent. It's like, no, I don't want, like, if we do not have the same intent for what this is going to be, then here's what happens. In my experience. If in fact, let's say
I'm just playing devil's advocate.
That's great. Yeah. Well, but the devil doesn't need an advocate. Got plenty of advocates.
That's right.
But like in this situation, right? Like for me, it's like, okay, let's say, you know, I want something more casual. She wants something more committed. Okay. If that's where we are, engaging only is going to lead to a problem. But part of that requires just being honest too. Because a lot of times in those early stages, there isn't a lot of honesty. There's a little bit of like, oh, I want to, you know, show you how great I am. And let me put on the character and put on the act and the sales rep, all of that. But I would encourage anyone, male or female, to not allow that period of time to go without asking real questions about who you're dealing with and finding out what their real intent is. And again, doesn't mean that their intent has to be marriage, right? It could just be like, my intent is to have a good time. Okay, great. My intent is to have a good time. Great. Let's go have a good time. Wonderful. My intent is to have a good time. Well, my intent is marriage. Let's not do that. Because one of us is probably going to get hurt. So to your point, it's just really about being honest. What are you looking for? Okay, cool. You know what? I'm in the same place. Okay, great. Let's go hang out. Doesn't mean it's going to work out. Doesn't mean it's going to lead to a relationship. Doesn't even mean it's going to lead to a marriage. But at least in those early stages, we can try to be on the same page. And that's what I say as men. Like, okay, you know what? My intent is to only deal with people as best I can that share the same intent. Because then if I don't, as men, then we become manipulators. We manipulate women. We manipulate situations to get what we want, even if it causes them harm and pain. And I don't believe, listen, in relationships, there is pain associated with it because things don't work out and it's painful. But some of that pain can be avoided if we were just more intentional and we were just honest about our intent. And guess what? Give a woman the information for her to make the best decisions for her health and her wholeness.
I agree with that 100%.
Versus me not, if I'm a man and I don't want to quite be honest with you. Because I'm trying to get, you know, like, no, give her, here's where I am. I'm in a casual moment. I'm in a not serious mood. You know, we may go out tonight. You may not hear from me for a week. That's where I am. Give her the information.
The problem is a lot of times because women want to, they're much more, they want to acquiesce. They want to be more like easygoing. They'll say, yeah, I want a casual relationship. When really their intention is not to be casual, right? So like when someone's like pretending, when you know that's not you, I'm saying when someone knows that's happening, what is a person to do? They can always fall back on the fact, well, they said they wanted something casual, but knowing that that's not the case, what do you do in that situation?
I mean, you know, I think it's a little bit of, as a man, going back to the whole master of the dog. Okay, if I'm choosing to be the master, right? If I'm choosing to let love lead, that requires me to live on some level sacrificially. Okay, so in that situation, if you sense or I sense,
I know you're gonna,
you know, she's saying she's cool with it, but I don't feel that. So either we give it a moment and see, you know, if we, you know, give it some time to see what happens. But fundamentally, if we know, we can feel, and if it doesn't feel right, then I would encourage any man, hey, time out, press pause. You know, maybe this is not the right situation for you. Maybe this is not the right situation for her. Maybe she doesn't want to lose you, so she's going along with your program. You know, but ultimately, as a man, if you really have no intent for her long term, then maybe this is not the right situation for you. And that's where the sacrifice comes in. Were you always
like this, just more innately, or did you have to grow to do this yourself and learn this?
I had to grow.
You were never a dog?
No. Well, no, because...
Never?
No, hold on. I've never been a dog, right?
But did the dog kind of like... Was the dog bigger than the master?
The dog has not been bigger than the master, but the dog is here. And the dog has always been here, you know? And just even growing up, part of the thing was like growing up in the church, you know, there was so much of sometimes a culture of suppression, right? When you have these lustful feelings and you don't know what to do with them. And, you know, it's like, well, you know, God says, be holy. Okay, but I'm horny. What do you do with that? And so, you know, growing up, you know, there was a lack of information on just how to navigate it. And that's one of the reasons why I also wrote The Truth About Men, was to say, hey, these feelings are going to come.
Right.
So let's not, act like they're not there. Let's figure out what we do with them. So for me, my journey it was like I was never a dog, but that doesn't mean I always had a good intent, and I talk about this in the book where, there were women that I had been dating and, again, didn't really have the intent. And what began to happen was I would see how much I would be hurting them because we weren't really aligned in our intent. Now, again, it may not work out even when you have the right intent, but I knew in my heart of hearts that I wasn't really for this woman, but I was still dating her, still taking her out because, I wanted just, to spend time and have fun and all that kind of stuff. And so I talk about this in the book that, I had to have my own, reckoning. And so that kind of came in the form of this dream, where it felt like almost like a vision from God. And in that dream, I was at the altar and about to say I do to my wife in the dream. And then next thing you know, the minister says, turn around. And I turn around and down the altar are all the women that I had dated, but they were cut open, slain.
Really?
Littered all down the aisle. And so basically it was like God was saying, is it worth all of that to get here? Don't play with my daughters. Like if you're not serious, just say I'm not serious. Let them operate with the full information about what they want to do for their life, but don't manipulate. Don't try to just get and then go off to the next situation because these are truly my daughters. So that was a reckoning for me. And that started to inform, how I dated. And then also I was married for 10 years. And so being married for 10 years, and being in a marriage, which is great, that dog was still there, right? But because I had practiced, putting the master first and leading with love, it didn't disrupt my marriage. Right. Because I was like, oh, got it. I know what this is.
Right. Exactly.
And I have some practice here. And that's the other thing as men, most of the time when we're, dating, we're taught to just go and conquer, conquer the world, sow your oats, all that kind of stuff. And that all has its place. However, when we want to transition into marriage, if we haven't been practicing some level of fidelity, some level of monogamy, it's very difficult to just in a moment flip a switch and it's like, oh, all of the years I've been living one way, now I'm going to live differently.
That's not so much. I think it's more when you're married, like, it's more like falling out of lust with the person that you love, right? That's where I see the most
interesting
stuff. Like, it's not so much like, yeah, you get married. It's not like it's more when you're married and like you get into this routine and then like there's no lust anymore. So that dog, I would say you call it, kind of like rears its ugly head more and more and more. That's harder to tame than just like a little Maltese. But when the German Shepherd comes out, it's much harder.
It is.
Right?
It is.
Or like the Doberman Pinscher. Like how do you...
Right. Communication. This is where communication comes in.
So why did you and your wife split then? Not because of that.
Jen, you slick, Jen. Nah, that's the next Habits, Hustle, and Heartbreak. That's the next podcast.
Okay, we'll do that one together. I slipped it in.
That's okay.
And you looked
that's
at me
all
like,
right.
you're like, what? Okay, but we're going to get to that maybe. I don't know. But do you understand what I'm saying though? Like there's a difference between I understand the messaging of the lust, but how do you tame a bigger dog when you're in a situation where you're locked and loaded in a marriage and like that happens? It happens all the time.
But you know what? The key is a number of things.
Acknowledgement.
Well, acknowledging for sure, but communication. And it sounds so simple, but it's one of the hardest things to do. To your point, the scenario you just laid out.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I mean, that's common.
That in marriage, you got the love, but that lust for your partner and that sexual drive for your partner is not there. Okay.
Yeah.
So,
I'm just being honest.
No, of course. But to the point of how to deal with it, here's a couple things. One, we have to reduce the stigma around that because people have come into marriage with these ideals of all the movies they've seen and it's going to be this and that's just not that's
your fault. You're the producer of these movies.
Right,
Stop doing it.
No, I haven't done a movie like that.
Good. I hope show the real life. Show like this is 40 version of it.
Right,
have you seen that movie?
Right.
Okay.
Yes, I have.
Because it's not like that. It's not.
No,
it's not
not
like Prince Charming and Cinderella, especially when you have kids and everything else.
Totally.
Make a movie like that, will you?
You got it. And so when these ideas and ideals crash against reality,
totally.
That's when, it becomes challenging. And that's where we have to communicate like, okay, we have to have some difficult conversations. And I need to express, this lust is a problem for me, or I need this. And then and then it's okay to bring in help. How about that? Work with a therapist, work with a sex therapist, read books, really take it on. Like the same way that if you and your spouse have a home renovation, what are you going to do? You're going to sit with the blueprint, sit with the contractor. You're going to, sit down with the designer. You're going to say, okay, how do we get this to where we want it to be? The same way you do that with your house, do that with your love life. Okay, you know what? Didn't expect this to feel like I'm not having that same oomph. Let's figure out how we rekindle this. Let's get tips. Let's get tools. Let's get help. Let's not live in silence, because in a lot of marriages, that's what happens.
No, I think that's true. I think that's one of the big problems, right? Because people then end up in their own silo and they don't really talk about it.
No.
And so therefore it just gets worse and worse. But I do think, and I'm just calling a spade a spade. I think that people also just change and grow apart. I mean, that's also normal. I don't think we're on this earth necessarily to be, monogamous to one person forever and ever and ever. I think that's also not really, and that's just, I'm just being honest.
Yeah.
I had this woman on my podcast. Her name is Jaya. She's a she did that show Goop, the Goop Netflix show.
Oh, okay.
Do you know who she is?
No, I don't.
Oh my gosh. So it was very interesting because she was the she just, whatever. She's like a sex person. And we're going into this podcast and what's going on and on and on. We're talking about all these other things. And then she drops the best thing. And she's like, yeah, so my partner's over there, blah, blah, blah. His name's Ian, 15 years. I'm like, oh, wonderful. We have a kid, blah, blah, blah. And I'm saying to her, how do you keep it, interesting and fresh and everything else? She goes on and on. Okay. And I'm like, oh, in my head, I'm like, oh, this is great. Good for her. This is amazing. And then she drops maybe 5 more minutes into the thing. But she also has 2 boyfriends, 20 years each, that she's been with, plus a new one that's 4 years. So she's got 3 other men on the side. Plus Ian's the anchor, but she has all these other relationships.
Oh, wow.
I'm like, oh, so that's how you keep your friends.
That's how you do it.
Yes, so it's giving me this bullshit. We do this, and I know what his sex type. She's giving me this whole blueprint of his, how the personality test,
sure.
or that thing where you're the kind of person who likes compliments. I'm the kind of person who likes gifts. So
yes, love languages.
Love languages, right? So she has the same type of idea with sex languages. You like this. She has one that says kinky, one is this, one is that. Not to embarrass you. I don't want to.
No, it's fine.
It was super interesting.
That is fascinating.
It was super fascinating. And she's great. She's so super knowledgeable. But then the crescendo is but I also have 9,000 partners, you know what I mean? And the other one's raising my kid. So it's just so fascinating.
Wow.
So I think that in theory, a lot of these things they sound good, but reality is very different than theory.
Yeah.
In my experiences. And I'm just calling it.
I agree with that.
Calling it real.
I agree with that. Yet, I think what happens.
Be polygamous. Okay, no.
No.
I didn't say
one is enough.
I'm just trying to embarrass you right now because you're so
cool.
straight and narrow and
it's
nice.
Cool.
And
it's
you're
cool.
just so where's your bow tie?
Hey, you know what? I left it at the word to Torres.
Oh,
party.
there you did. Exactly.
I did.
Right,
I did. But but honestly, even in what you're talking about reality.
Yeah.
But see, this is the thing that, maybe even also gets me passionate about relationships is because we don't always take the time to acknowledge whatever the reality is. And guess what? There's no right or wrong reality, right? And sometimes in marriage, there's that idea of oh man, if this isn't what I thought it was supposed to be, am I going to disappoint my partner? Am I going to let them down? Versus okay, let's just have an honest conversation for a moment. Doesn't mean, yes, we are growing differently, but that doesn't mean that growing has to be, we're going apart. Two people can grow. Everyone's growing from the moment they say, I do. You're growing and changing and becoming different.
Right.
And you can learn to love that person. You can learn to fall in love with who that person is becoming. There's no question about that. It just comes down to when you start to feel, something's off. That's the moment to catch it.
Got it. Yes, I understand.
Because if you let it go years,
so true.
And then you try to sort it out, it could be too late.
So then what would you say the biggest question is that you get, or the biggest problem that you hear when people, because now that you're this dating expert, right?
I'm not calling myself a dating expert. Relationship advisor.
Okay, relationship advisor. I like that.
Yes.
I love that. Okay.
Yes.
What would you say one of the biggest things that you actually get asked or hear that's the biggest problem? Is it the cheating? Besides the cheating? Okay.
No, it's really about how most of the time women asking, how can I find a good man?
And what do you tell them? Go on Raya? No, I'm joking.
I say pray. I just say pray because, most women come to me and they tell me, about their dating horror stories and
especially here in LA, right?
That's what people say. Oh. Yeah. People, just say that women, say that, the men, all they want is sex and they want, as you just were articulating, they want polyamory and they don't want commitment and it's so hard to find someone on the same page. And so, first and foremost, I really just try to encourage them. I say, I understand. And I know that's difficult and just trust. I say, you got to just trust. You got to trust that your person is out there some way, somehow, and resist the temptation to allow the narrative in the culture to become your narrative. Right. So all you need is the right one. It may take you a number of people to get there, but I do believe that love is available, and do your best to not allow the resentment and the frustration and the bitterness to work against that, and try to stay in the energy of the love that you want.
These are such great answers. I mean, it's hard though in the moment, right? Like I'm not single, but I have friends who are, and I know that it's social media also plays it's very difficult, right? Because there's so much more access to everything now and people and availability for men, and women have much more of a difficult time. So you're telling them to be like, not to give up and all these other things. Are there other strategies besides that they can kind of
don't have a stigma around any way that you can find love. So it may be, you mentioned Raya, maybe, dating app like that, no, I mean, there are dating apps out there. Dating app, asking friends, trying new things. Like,
how are you meeting girls now that you're single?
Because I'm just me.
Right. I was going to say, it's easy for you, right? Like,
I don't know.
You're probably like, you're leaving here shooing them away with like a shoe.
I didn't say all that.
I'm staying with that smile. Oh my God. It's like going to be, forget about it.
I'm cool. I'm
I don't
good.
think you have a problem.
I'm doing all right.
I don't think so. So what's your type? It's like, just what are you looking for right now? Are you dating anybody?
You know what I am looking for?
And by the way, I'm not hitting on you. I'm just asking you, by the way. I don't want to be...
Jen over here trying to get into all the mix. I told you, Jen, habits, hustle, and heartbreak. That's the next one. And we get into all that, okay? Right? But on this one,
You're sweating now. You're like really sweating.
I'm sweating because it's hot in here. It ain't got nothing to do with the questions.
I know. I'm kidding you.
But in terms of your question about what am I looking for?
Yeah.
I'm really looking for truth, you know what I mean? Just, and that can take the shape of so many different ways, And also it's like being newly,
how long have you been not together with?
It's been just this year.
Oh, it's brand new.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, I'm not like out there like,
right.
I'm looking this way. It's like, I'm open. I'm open to what's true.
Right.
I'm open to
living your life.
Living my life, working on healing and, just also, just being open. So, as the right person comes, I'm open to that, and open to whatever experiences come along with that.
So what are some of your habits and hustle? You keep on bringing it up. So let's find out. We know you like to exercise. So
yes.
What's your, give me the day-to-day, give me the day in the life of you with all your projects
different things
and stuff. Yes, exactly.
So
what time do you wake up in the morning onward?
So usually I'll get up, 5:30-ish. I'll usually go to Rumble at 6 o'clock.
Okay.
And then I'm done at 7, come home. And
you do that early, huh?
I do. I love it doing it early. For some reason, going at 7 just feels like, oh man, I'm not done until 8. It just
it
for me.
disrupts the day.
It's like I get done if I go to work out at 6 and I get done at 7, I'm like, oh man, I got the rest of the day.
That's good.
If I go at 7 and I don't get done until 8 something, I'm like, oh man, I feel like I'm running late.
Right. You get anxious.
Yeah. I'm like, oh shoot, I'm running behind schedule. Right. But so I do that. I'll go to a Rumble or another class. I will come home, do my protein shake, usually listen to.
Whoa. Back it up. What do you put in the protein shake?
Oh, you don't want to know.
Yeah, I do.
Oh my goodness.
Oh, I do.
Everything.
This is what I want. This is the stuff I care about. So come on, tell me.
Everything else.
Hollywood, Schmollywood. I want to know about this.
The protein shake. That's it. That's
what I want to know.
Okay. So coconut water, protein powder.
What kind of protein powder?
This vegan protein powder that I cannot remember the name of. I'll have to text you the picture. So protein powder, psyllium, flaxseed.
Good.
I put in these cocoa flavonoids. It's like a cocoa powder. This green powder. I also put in 3 raw egg yolks. Not the white,
God, you're not
just
messing
the
around.
yolk.
Oh
I'm not playing. We didn't come to play, okay?
I love it. Yes.
I do that, and then I do vitamin C in there, vitamin C powder, and then vitamin B. Like
Who
the
gave you this
liposomal.
recipe?
I've over years, I just figured it out. That works as good for me, and then that's usually it. And then do my supplements.
What are the supplements?
Oh man, it's a lot.
That you have.
And,
Listen,
okay, but
this is the part you have to tell me. Like, there's no you can't go breeze over this.
B12 ancestral supplements. Are you familiar with those?
Actually, I am a little bit.
Yeah, I started using those, and they're great.
Okay, I don't know much. I've heard of it.
So
but
it's basically like they create the supplements from the cow.
What?
Yes.
Oh,
ancestral.
I thought this was something else.
No.
Hold on.
Ancestral
Okay,
supplements are like they take all the different parts of the cow, and they have a belief that like heals like. So if you're having liver problems, then if you consume liver, your liver is going to improve. If you're needing a stronger heart, if you eat hard, it's going to improve.
Wow, you're doing this?
Yeah. So these supplements, made by ancestral supplements, there's one for men, which I take. And then they also have this thing called beef tallow, which is pretty good. And I, we'll do that occasionally. And they have so many, they have for prostate, they have them for, the organs, fish eggs, all of it. So it's wild, but it's just, they put them in the pills. Not like you're eating it raw.
No, I know you're taking the pills.
Yeah.
So you're ordering which ones are you taking?
I'm taking the male supplement.
The male supplement. Mm-hmm. Okay. So what else are you taking?
So we're doing that, zinc, what else? I'm just trying to go through my cabinet here.
Yeah. Are you taking omega-3s?
I'm taking omega-3s. Yes. Taking omega-3, taking vitamin D for sure. Taking 10,000 a day.
10,000 is a lot.
I know.
Wow.
Yes.
I'm taking 5,000.
Oh, okay.
I thought that was a lot.
Well, because sometimes, you don't know how much your body absorbs and not so.
But you can overdo it.
This is true. But, that 10 to 15 range is not.
Did someone give you this protocol or you just figured this part out too?
Part of it is, I have worked with a nutritionist, but this part of most of the supplements are like me sorting out over the years of what I've tried, what really works for me. And then there's a bunch of stuff. I just can't remember all of it.
Take a picture and send it to me. I want to see.
I will.
I told you about the NAD though. You should take that and the True Nitrogen. I'm going to send you that too.
Okay. I can't wait.
Okay. Tell me what else you do.
So then after the protein shake and the supplements, while I'm doing that, I'm usually listening to some sort of inspirational talk or podcast while I'm getting ready.
My podcast, obviously.
Yeah.
God, it's like a no-brainer right there.
I love it.
Yeah.
And then I get to work, so in that, I have an office, which is right down the street from my house. And so that consists of sometimes, I have, staff meetings with my film department or TV department or digital department. I have meetings with my manager to get caught up on what's going on the talent side.
Who is your manager?
Her name is Denora Pena. She runs a company called Bodega 7. She's fantastic.
Okay.
Yeah, we just started working together this year, and she has a lot of great young up-and-coming clients, and she's great. The best.
What other clients does she have?
She has.
Who are you competing against? No, I'm just joking.
No. She has a lot of social media influencers. She also has some actors. She also has, Massey. I can never pronounce her last name.
Massey. Yes.
I'm sorry, Massey.
She's a fitness person.
Yes. So she manages Massey and, a whole host of folks. So I'll do meetings with her. I'll do interviews depending on what's going on, if I'm meeting with Netflix on something or meeting with another studio, I will have pitches that I'll be taking, and developing for different projects that I'm doing on the film or the TV side. So that'll mean me meeting with different writers and working on the pitch. Or sometimes people want to pitch me projects, so I'll listen to those. I'll have a lunch usually at the Soho House with, someone from the industry. Yesterday I sat down with an executive friend of mine. So it just depends. And then,
do I know him?
No.
Okay.
No. And then in the afternoon, I have more meetings. And then in the evening, it just depends. Sometimes I'll get in a second workout. Sometimes I'll have a dinner. Or sometimes I'll just go home and chill.
That's actually a great breakdown. What do you eat for dinner? What do you eat for dinner?
My dinner is all over the place. It just, it depends. I try to eat when I'm hungry.
Okay.
So sometimes if I'm not that hungry at night, I might snack on some grapes or something like that, but I don't eat a big meal. If I am hungry, then I'll, try to do something like, maybe I don't do a lot of meat. I'll do meat maybe like once a week-ish.
Okay.
Because one, it keeps my skin, when I eat a lot of meat, my skin is not clear.
Really?
Yeah.
You do have good skin, actually.
Thank you. Yes.
Do you drink a lot of water?
I drink a lot of water,
Yeah,
and
okay.
and I have that's a whole nother thing.
Do you have a whole regimen for your
Yes.
skin? Of course you do. Why wouldn't you? It's like, duh. Okay, so what do you...
Nose for News podcast.
Yeah.
That's the name. Jen's got a nose for news, boy. I tell you. Inquiring minds.
You've no idea.
Really want to know.
You've no idea. I told you, like, I want to know. I don't want this bullshit surface.
I love it.
I want to know what you're doing for your skin too.
I love it. Oh
Okay.
man, that's like, some of that has to do with, one, just drinking water, reducing meat, and, incorporating as much green
genetics
stuff
is
as
a lot
possible.
of it, actually.
This is true.
Yeah.
And then I have this tea tree oil soap by Carbon Theory, which is just the best. It's the best. It just, I am religious about it.
Really? Okay,
Yes.
I've never heard of that one either.
Oh my goodness.
Is it a guy thing or is it like an everybody
it's
thing?
an everybody thing. I mean,
Okay.
they have it at, they sometimes sell them at some Sephora's, and they also sell them at Ulta Beauty. And then you can get it online.
Okay.
But it's fantastic. And then Belief has a brand that focuses a lot on, hydration and moisturizing. And so I'll do the Aqua Bomb at night, and then I'll do that moisturizer during the day.
Wow, you have like a whole thing.
Got a whole
happening.
thing. Got a whole thing.
I love it.
You gotta do it.
Do you drink
No,
at all?
never.
Never. Okay. Is it because for health reasons or for religious reasons or for both?
It was family reasons because of my father.
That's what I figured.
Which is really the primary driver. Not so much because of religion, or not even so much because of health, just because of my father.
Yeah, you saw some
Yeah,
bad
yeah,
stuff.
yeah. And ultimately, what I've come to learn about alcohol, it really,
I agree.
it's not healthy.
gross.
People do it, but just in terms of what it does to our brain and what it does to our body, it's just not the best thing to have a regular practice of, from what the research that I've done. So
Can I tell you something? I'm not a drinker at all either. I feel like it ages you too.
It does.
If it does, like, I think it's just,
even
if you do it moderately, like I think, like I've never been that person to like drink 2 glasses of wine a night or wine a night or whatever. I feel like there's like, that is like it's one of those things that it sounds so small, but it makes a big difference. Over
from
time,
what I've seen.
accumulative.
Yep, from what I've seen. So
You know?
no smoking, no drinking, none of that.
You're like super like
Just
straight.
trying to live my best life.
You really are living your best life. Well, are you? Are you having any fun?
Trying.
What do you do for fun?
Oh man, I go to the movies. I love going to the
Golly
movies.
gee.
I just started taking an improv class, which was
beautiful.
been great. So much fun. Just never done that before, so I love doing that. I love. I just went to Costa Rica with my close friend, my buddies, and went hiking in the jungles and jumping off of cliffs.
Oh,
and,
that's so cool.
So really being adventurous and
Yes.
being, getting outdoors. I love doing that. I love spending time with my aunts, and my mom, so literally, like, my Aunt Enos lives in LA, and one of my favorite things to do is just go over Aunt Enos's house. She's 85.
Oh my gosh.
And we'll just sit back and eat and talk and, just catch up,
You're such a sweet pea. Who knew? I would never have thought this was you.
Here I am.
Oh my gosh. Well, by the way, I have no idea how long I've been even talking to you.
I have no idea.
I think it's been like 2 hours, poor guy.
We've done 2 episodes.
I think we've done, yeah, we have, but that's okay for me anyway. But I probably kept you way too long. How do people like find more information about you, or where do they find you?
Yeah, you can.
Audible.
They can find me on at my website, DeVonFranklin.com. I'm also on Instagram at DeVon Franklin, on Twitter at DeVon Franklin, and then Facebook at DeVon Franklin.
Not
Official.
TikTok?
I think I have a TikTok that my team handles, but I just haven't
Done it.
I just haven't got on it yet.
Yeah.
I'm just like, okay, of all the things that I have going on,
Right. That's one that you're
I'm
just
like,
remiss.
unless there's a real purpose behind it, I just haven't.
You're not
I
into
haven't
it.
focused on it. Let me put it that way.
Okay. How about YouTube? Are you doing that?
We have a presence on YouTube, but it's not what it needs to be.
Yeah.
I
Well,
haven't
you're too busy.
There's a lot going on. So
A lot going
Yeah.
on. Wow. Oh my God. Well, thank you. I'm so happy that Tori got,
Yeah, me too.
recommended you and came here. Really, this was so fun.
it was great. Thank you
No,
so
I'm serious.
much. No, for
I
real.
really like talking to you.
Me too. Likewise.
This was you were much different than I thought you were going to be.
And you know what's interesting? most people say that. And so, I'm like, okay, what am I putting out? I don't know, but I'm trying to change it. So I love interviews like this that give me a chance to,
You're so likable.
Express.
I feel you're very like Torre-like in a way.
Oh,
like
cool. I love that. It's quite a compliment.
I love him, as
me
you
too.
know. And like, I feel like this was very similar where I didn't know him at all.
Oh, wow.
Right? Like Dimitra, who I work with, was a big fan of his. And
Yep.
she's like, you have to have Torre Roberts, blah, blah. I'm like, oh God, okay, fine. And I had him on and I like, oh no, I'm being totally serious. I don't like mince words.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I loved him.
He's the best.
He's like my favorite.
He's my brother.
He is the best. And like, I feel same with you. I didn't really know who you were. And I was like, oh, I wonder who this guy is. You come on here and like, it was just, you have such a beautiful spirit and a beautiful personality and you seem so genuine and nice. I don't know why I thought in my head that you would be kind of a dick. I don't know. I don't know why. You're the opposite.
I don't know either.
So people don't just look at his cute smile and think, he's actually this is very, very, and I mean that in the nicest way because you're so cute. And like, I thought like, oh God, he's going to be a player. That's what I really thought.
Oh,
but you're not at all. You're literally the opposite.
No.
The opposite.
No.
You're just so nice and so good. So thank you for being on the podcast.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
That was back very strange with it.
It's okay. It's all good. I received that because I knew your intent. I felt the intent.
My intention was good, right?
That's right. It was great.
Okay, good. Well, thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for watching Habits and Hustle. Please watch another video here and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already by pressing the button below.
Jennifer Cohen, visionaries, tune in, you can get to know them. Be inspired, this is your moment. Excuses, we ain't having that. The Habits and Hustle podcast, powered by Habit Nest.